Pleasant and a warm good morning to everyone. I think warm is a bit metaphoric because it's quite cold, but certainly judging by the friendliness of all of the encounters I've had so far, I would say I'm very glad with the reception I've had here in South Africa. My name is Kevon Swift. I am Head of Public Safety Affairs at Latnik, and I am part of the Strategic Relations Department of Latnik, where we do a lot of engagement. My presentation this morning is looking at the RIRs beyond our registry services. We are more than just a number. So I do a lot of engagement across all of the Americas, and sometimes with some of the conversations I have, the perception that is there at times is that the RIRs have perform a utility type function. It's almost as if it's transactional, that we provide an IP, we provide internet resources, you pay money, and then that's it. What I'm here to talk to you today about is that we go beyond that. One of the things that is probably not stated enough is that we strengthen communities and we foster cultures that support internet development. So I'm going to focus on this message of strengthening community and building culture. Well, of course, I think by now we know what the RRs are in terms of its basic function and the geographic distribution of what we do. But to show you how we build culture via various means, I'm going to touch on these points that I have here, which refer to capacity building, community and global outreach, internet measurements, development, cooperation, and security. And I managed to leverage some valuable inputs from my RIR colleagues for this presentation. So what I intend to do is to give you a general overview or panorama of each of these topic areas, and then we'll have a deep dive or spotlight on specific initiatives that have made an impact into this idea of creating culture to develop the internet. So we'll start with capacity building. We are all engaged in capacity building throughout our regions, where the objective is not just to offer a suite of courses. Of course, capacity building is more about strengthening skills, abilities, enhancing technical knowledge among technical professionals in their communities. And here you're pleased to see that a lot of us have been taking advantage of online platforms. In addition to bespoke face-to-face trainings, we reach out to professionals such as engineers, educators, regulators, and network administrators, whether they are in the public or private sectors. So learning materials almost always focus on technical knowledge and as well managerial concepts, know-how to accompany that technical knowledge. So, of course, I'm sure you're familiar with the APNIC IP Academy and just some figures to understand that impact. 6,000 engineers, 100 managers trained from over 50 countries. APNIC Academy, the AFRINIC IP Academy also certifies community trainers that can support the learning process through AFRINIC style events and other initiatives. APNIC Academy, they have an extensive catalog of webinars that are offered for free, online, self-paced courses as well on various topics. At ARIN, as well, we have webinars, instructional videos, and a library of on-demand resources. And at the RIPE NCC, certification is a clear focus area. Through the professionalization and a series of exams, you can earn designations such as associate, analyst, or expert in specific tracks made available for professional certification. So I'd like to take this time now to do a spotlight on my home base and an initiative we have called Latnik Campus. So like the other examples we have seen, Latnik Campus contains several self-paced tutored courses on subjects ranging from BGP fundamentals, introduction to IPv6, and even a multidisciplinary offering that introduces people, and specifically technical professionals, to internet governance with a focus on the contributions of Latin American and Caribbean actors to the regional and global internet governance ecosystems. So in this year-on-year snapshot from 2020 to 2022, you'll see during the height of the pandemic, we can appreciate our course offerings grew from 8 to 13 courses, with the number of editions or cycles moving from 14 to 20. So what that means is that there are a number of courses that we repeat more than once per year. And when we look at the satisfaction rates, based on the surveys that we conduct frequently, we have a high satisfaction rate. Of course, the last example registering 95%. And here, I'll simply outline that whereas at Latnik, we provide service to 33 economies, we have a reach of over 44 countries with our online campus. And similar to the RIPE experience with certifications, we are contemplating launching specializations which go towards professional development. So specializations, professional development program, specializations, tier capacity building scheme made up of courses that are already available on the campus, and they're grouped together in a particular way, and they're subject to a rigorous exam that can lead to basic, intermediate, or advanced designations in issue areas such as data center network operations, campus network operations, and ISP network operations. So that's our capacity building remit in building culture and building community. I'm going to move on directly to the issue of community development. So we'll all be aware that according to our bylaws, we are mandated to convene public policy forums twice a year, which is the core of our meetings. But beyond just registry issues, we aim to build community and foster culture through our meetings, and at some of the RIRs, we have pristine opportunities to do so. So I will show you and indicate here the Latnik example. Latnik 40, it's going to be celebrated in Latnik 2023. Interestingly, this occurs next week. And it's the Latnik meeting that we have along with our NOG. It's a meeting where the first day is full of face-to-face trainings. And then we have parallel tracks. We have technical forums. We have a track that is dedicated to internet security by the convening of the first conference within the Latnik region. For those of you who are not aware, FIRST is the Global Forum for Incident Response, and they convene one of their major meetings in the Latin American and Caribbean region at the Latnik meeting. So this just goes to show that we bring together beyond just ISPs, we bring together IXP operators, we bring together CSIRs, we bring together academia, sometimes we bring together policy makers from the public sector to promote a greater understanding among these subgroups around the issues that affect us all as a community. And a common feature that we have across the RIR systems are fellowships. So the intention of a fellowship is to bring new voices to these spaces and to encourage leadership among these new voices within our ecosystems. So switching lens a bit, when we think about outreach, we can think of outreach as making strategic alliances, co-hosting activities, and participating in spaces convened by others. But these are just some of the mechanisms for outreach and for ensuring that our messages reach beyond our meetings. We ensure that the right people are being made aware of matters of strategic and urgent importance. And outreach is about ensuring equity. It's about ensuring inclusion in our governance system. And this is an opportunity to take shape and take advantage of the culture that remains to support internet development. Outside of our meetings, as I said, outside of the RIR meetings, we sometimes hit the road. I'm going to do a spotlight now on the ARIN outreach program for 2023 and an in-community initiative called RN on the Road. So for this year's engagement, the RN team participated in over 31 events, raising awareness about RN, educating attendees about RN services, and sharing technical knowledge on the topic areas you see here displayed on the screen: IPv6, RPKI, network autonomy, and the transfer market. I'm going to move along. So RN on the Road is a community one-day focused event to bring knowledge and awareness closer to stakeholders who may or may not have had the opportunity to participate directly in an RN event. And thus far, they have visited more than 60 communities since the inception of this program, RN on the Road. It's been around since 2010. I'm going to move along right now to internet measurements. We are not obligated to produce measurements or statistics on the resources we manage and allocate. But why do we do this? You see, in order to provide accurate reflections about the state of the internet in our communities, measurements go a very long way in that respect. So more than just numbers, statistics help our decision makers across sectors understand where we are and how they need to focus their efforts to develop the internet, whether it's on training, whether it's on bridging the gaps between socio-technological ideas. And what I mean by that, quite often when we talk about internet and development space, we talk about Internet of Things and smarter cities. But then the reality is that the underlying protocols to support all of that, IPv6, isn't there in our community. So trying to match those gaps, it's important to have measurements to understand what we really need to do. So I'm going to give a brief spotlight on the RIPE internet measurements, the RIPE Atlas. So on, I believe that was Tuesday, our RIPE colleague here, Leah, had presented on RIPE Atlas. So just as a reminder, RIPE Atlas provides a global view of internet performance around the world, supported by operators, enthusiasts, volunteers, anyone with an interest in supporting internet measurements who agree to connect a probe to the network for these purposes. And of course, if you have further questions on RIPE Atlas, we can obviously continue having conversations with Leah during the break. There are other activities at RIPE that are dedicated to addressing statistics on ASNs and routing. Many of the experiences are actually captured through the RIPE Labs podcast, which is freely available. And once you acquire all this knowledge and you participate and you speak with us and we talk, what's next? The idea behind all of this that we do, and with this culture of internet development, is that we move towards action. So under our development and cooperation work, let's say you're part of a local internet community, you're familiar with some parts of the solution, but you may not have some technical knowledge and you may not have the funding to do so. We have a number of programs that are dedicated towards this. They are to drive action in this spirit of internet culture that we go about promoting. So since 2019, RN has been administering a community grant program targeting academia and not-for-profit organizations, among other organizations. And they've supported up to 21 projects since the inception, with grants that range between 1,000 and 20,000 US. And then the projects fit into the categories that you see here: internet technical improvements, registry processes, informational outreach, research. And of course, with RIPE, RIPE is a key promoter of innovation, connecting academic research with network operators through Community Projects Fund and the RIPE Academic Cooperation Initiative that you see here respectively. I'm going to take now this moment to do a spotlight on two development initiatives. One happens in the Asia Pacific with the APNIC Foundation and the ISIF Asia program, and of course, very own Latnik Frida Fund. So in a nutshell, APNIC's developmental work is conducted through this fairly recently founded APNIC Foundation, which has an overarching mission of increasing internet investment. This gives you a quick idea about the APNIC Foundation, and you'll see as well they have several mechanisms to support this mission. One of these mechanisms that has left a significant mark on internet development in the region there is the ISIF Asia Fund. ISIF is the Information Society Innovation Fund. It focuses on three key program areas: infrastructure development, inclusion, and knowledge. And for 2023, ISIF Asia's impact in figures, we see 24 grants distributed at a combined value of over 2 million USD in over 17 economies. It's worth noting that right now, ISIF Asia has now had an impact on 32 of the 56 economies that APNIC provides its services to. So this slide gives you more information on those 24 grants, and you can delve further into the details of infrastructure, inclusion, knowledge creation in the Asia Pacific region. Moving on to FRIDA. FRIDA is the regional fund for innovation development in Latin America and the Caribbean. And this is a fund that has been administered by us for approximately 19 years now. We provide technical and financial support to projects that fall within the categories of internet stability and security, connectivity and internet access, and open and free internet. So in figures, to see the impact of FRIDA, and again, remember, this is about building culture, strengthening community, and moving to action for internet development. FRIDA has supported up to 130 grants, 7 scale-ups, 49 awards since its inception. And for the years 2020 to 2023, this gives you an idea of how much in demand the FRIDA program is. We had an external jury having to filter close and evaluate close to 1,200 applications, which resulted in 52 projects that were supported during those years. It's a very competitive program. It has a high impact. Of course, feel free to speak to me later on about some of the results and the types of projects that were done. Last but not least, I'm going to talk about security. And I'm probably going to talk about security in a way that is very different to how you've probably heard security discussed before, because my message is going to be different. At the RIRs, we all encourage RPKI and DNSSEC adoption to make sure our routing and BGP protocols are safer and effectively mitigate against attacks to information systems. Additionally, you can see, for instance, at APNIC as well, in addition to Latnik, we support the creation of CSIRTs, which are Computer Security Incident Response Teams or Computer Emergency Response Teams. And this is, in the Latnik case, a free and complimentary service that we have to our members. And here's a spotlight on Latnik CSIRT. So the Latnik CSIRT has a number of key functions. I think when it comes to security, a lot of times people think of security as just an IT manager's problem. It is not. Security is an everybody problem. And I think throughout the pandemic, what we have seen is that with the exponential rise in attacks that are occurring, we need to go out, we need to be engaged, we need to be informed, because the most robust security system that we have is as strong as its weakest link. And quite unfortunately, the weakest link tends to be end users. Over 90% of cyber incidents occur because of a fault at the human side. Security is important. So our CSIRT has this value added service for our members. What we do, we encourage incident reporting. We also broker confidential advice for when incidents do happen. And we have a system, a warning system, an alert system that sends out to our members advice or news on the latest threats and vulnerabilities to the global internet. And of course, CSIRTs need to collaborate with other CSIRTs to strengthen their value proposition. IT security is not an IT issue anymore. Security is an everyone issue. The real value behind our security work at Latnik is it comes from building relationships with various communities. It comes with understanding that one, yes, CSIRTs have to speak with CSIRTs, but CSIRTs also have to speak with other information society groups. As we see here, we have Team Cymru, the Anti-Phishing Working Group, MOG. These are all information security professional associations that treat with various aspects of information security. We have to speak with law enforcement outside of an investigation on a cyber attack or a cyber incident. We need to engage them beforehand. We need to understand what is required on their end in terms of the judicial process. And at the same time, we need to expose them and give them a better understanding of our internet ecosystem. We have to talk with other actors in the internet, domain name registrars. We have to talk with everyone. And beyond what seems to be somewhat obvious, we have to go and reach out to those who it matters the most. We have to be able to reach out to universities, industry, and last but not least, the end users, so that they can effectively have a safe and enjoyable experience when it comes online. So I'm going to close there. I wanted to really emphasize that what we do is much more than just distribute numbers and maintain a registry. The foregoing examples here and the focus on the impacts, it's really is meant to demonstrate how we strengthen communities and how we create this culture that supports internet development, internet culture. And this culture, since its inception, is a collaborative one, and is one that we will need to maintain to continue having and enjoying the internet we need, and also accompany the evolution of the internet that we want. So with that, any questions? I hope I didn't speak too fast and my accent confused you. I know I'd sort of delved, I hope I didn't speak in pure Trini at times, but.
I'll ask a question if you don't mind. John Crane with ICANN. On the work with CSIRTs, and this is for my own ignorance because I don't know the answers to this, are any of the NRO members themselves operating certs, and are you members of FIRST? Are any of you actually operating CSIRTs yourself, and are you members of the FIRST organization?
So Latnik, yes, Latnik operates a CSIRT. It's a small operation that we have based in Uruguay. And yes, we are members of FIRST. We're also members of MOG. So FIRST has about 3 of these global conferences. And through this alliance we have, one of the focuses on Latin America and the Caribbean. It gives a lot of times the opportunities for our community to be able to interact directly with the experts and share some of the experiences. There are a lot of reasons, resource limitations and the like, where it prevents us at times going out to the global meetings. So having them come to us has been a key contribution to what we're doing on the security landscape.
That's excellent. We also, as you know, because we work with you on some of these projects, you probably work with Carlos from my team. You know, ICANN also operates a small CSIRT, and like FIRST is probably one of the better forums for CSIRTs to get knowledge, etc. So if you're introducing them to that environment, that's fantastic. So thank you.
Perfect. I'll probably mention as well at the Latnik meeting, we actually try to bring together as many certs as possible from the region just to meet, to interact. I mean, the first line of building a trust community is actually having face-to-face interactions. It makes a big difference between seeing an organization on a website and actually knowing a person, having a personal contact, and maintaining a free and open way of communicating with them to treat with, if you just want advice, or even with actual incidents as they occur. So we do our best to bring many communities in our space and to encourage those sorts of, it's not rocket science, but it's important, it's critical, sometimes it's overlooked. It's the building of the human relationships that support the work we do on the internet side.
Kevin, thank you. Paul Wilson again. I learned quite a bit from this presentation myself. I found it really interesting to have this side-by-side comparison of all of the different things that RIRs do, which are similar, but often different. And I've been watching, for instance, the Latnik CCERT, which is something that your community asked you to do. In answer to John's question, APNIC doesn't have a CCERT, but we have very close relationships with FIRST and with Morg and with APCERT and others in the region, but we happen not to have been asked to run a CCERT. One of the things that people should understand, I think, is that there might seem to be a bit of diversity and randomness here, and there kind of is. But I think for all of the RIRs, what we're doing is serving the needs of members as members ask us to do things and help to set the priorities of the RIRs. So in the case of APNIC, we have a formal survey that runs every 2 years. It's been happening for the last 24 years, every 2 years. And so if there's anything that members are asking us to do, such as a CCERT, and we've tested that proposition actually on a survey in the past, then the survey is our kind of paper trail. So in fact, in APNIC's case, if anyone asks us, why are we doing APNIC Foundation, or why are we doing XYZ, then we can point to actually, in most cases, the answers from a survey which help to answer those questions. So one extra dimension in this presentation may actually be to look at how the different RIRs are taking their guidance through what mechanisms to actually perform these functions, which are outside and beyond the RIR sort of mandate. Sometimes we hear from a kind of a purist approach that RIRs should do nothing else apart from being the
transactional
internet address registry, and that's a valid point. But we're also service organizations. We're funded by our members, and so if our members are saying we want you to do something because we believe we're happy to support that and we need that service, then that's why we might take something on within available resources, of course. But anyway, thank you. That was really interesting.
Okay.
Just a follow-up to Paul's comments. This is Oscar from Latnik. Why we do things that are a little bit away of the numbers. We, in the case of Latnik, we do have these mandates in our bylaws, in our statute. Out of the 7 definitions of our bylaws of our goal, we need to provide these activities, and that was not an accident. That was on purpose. When we have to come up with the construction of this registry, we didn't want to have a registry only organization. That was going to be easy, and we didn't need to do all this effort just to replicate what ARIN was doing at that moment. We wanted to have all these things that are relevant for our community that we needed at that time, and we didn't have it. So that's why we make sure when we construct Latnik to introduce those 3 elements that are relevant for the community building process and all these culture building activities that we have done for the last 20 years.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Oscar. Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Hi, Jan Schulte, Leiden University. Thank you very much, Kevin. That was echoing Paul. That was a really, really interesting, systematic, comprehensive, comparative, really, really nice. I only wondered whether you could add even another category of
Okay.
contributions, which would be in the governance area. that in terms of the policy processes and the institutions that the RIRs have built up over the years, it may not be something that you're aware of in day-to-day work,
Yes.
but actually you're building up new ways of governing global resources, which are useful not only in the internet area, but potentially further afield as well.
Yes, Thursday, that's very important. I think I actually took that for granted, but yes, the RIRs are really a hotbed of how do we treat with new challenges, who are the actors that need to come together, and it's a really good, I would say, I don't want to say a sandbox environment, but it's a good space in order to encourage the development of new governance organizations. Okay. All right. Any other question? I'm free to speak all throughout the day. I'll be here right down to the end. So happy to be here again. And thank you.